What's up, and welcome to episode 214 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and I'm joined by the one and only Woody V. What's happening, mate?
Great to be here, Robbie. And the NBA Finals is just a couple of sleeps away, so really excited.
It's been annoying with a few days with no basketball, right? But yeah, can't wait for Thursday our time for that game one there. And yeah, obviously a lot to talk about in terms of the finals and how the teams got there today. But before we get into things, just a reminder: please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Yeah, as always, Woods. Let's start off with some jerseys. Who you got for us today?
Yeah, for sure, man.
With the stand up, rocking the Cairns type hands, number 25, Keanu Pinder jersey.
Now I've done
Nice jersey too, that one.
It's the Lola Bunny one, So yeah, so it's the Looney Tunes one. So I've got all three, the trio of jerseys: Adelaide, Cairns, and Perth. I wore the Adelaide jersey when Jack Everin came on the show quite some time ago now, and I wore the Perth jersey when Keanu left Perth, right? And what do we like? A guy who comes back to a team that he once played for, and now I'm donning his Cairns jersey as he comes back to Cairns for his second stint. I know we're going to talk a little bit about Adam Forde later, so I don't want to get into too much, but just in terms of from Keanu Pinder's mindset, right? Do you think that played into him coming back to Cairns? Was he told before that Forde would be the head coach, and obviously they've got that pre-existing relationship? What do you think there?
You'd have to think that was part of the deal with him coming back, right? And he always felt at home there, didn't he? He had his best seasons there. And look, he wasn't bad by any means with Perth. I think some people, maybe myself at times, were focused on maybe the contract he was on and the play they were getting out of that contract. He's no doubt he's still a great player there, and I think that's he was keen. Maybe he likes the location. He's not in that big city with maybe a lot of spotlight on him. Very supportive fans there, whereas you get a city like Perth or some of the other big cities, like bigger cities anyway. The fans can get on you a little bit if you're not performing well there. So yeah, I think it's good. You mentioned those jerseys as well, Woods. Plenty of people with Cairns Pinder jerseys. Plenty of people with Wildcats. Not very many at all with Adelaide. So,
yeah, man. You know how big I was on him.
I regret not getting a Jack McVeigh Adelaide 36 jersey. Right, that was one that always annoyed me. I never got one of those.
The Connor Henry year.
That's right. That's So I like it. One, a bit of a Bulls hat. Any reason?
No, it just looks good. It just looks good on my head, man. So I just thought I'd rock it. That's all. Yeah.
Sweet. That's a good reason. All right. Well, I wanted to show jersey. I've had for a little while, maybe a year or so, but to be honest, I forgot I had it. I was going through the wardrobe on the weekend. I'm like, how did I even forget I had this one? So I'll stand up and show you who I'm rocking today.
All right. For our audio listeners that can't see, Robbie's wearing the Bullets, Mitchell and Ness, Andrew Gay's jersey. Wow. That's absolutely wow, right?
That's a beauty, right?
Yeah, man. Put it next to my Bradkey.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think our good friend Nate's got the Spurs one, doesn't he? I think they put out a couple of years ago, so I'd love to get that too. But love this one. I don't know. How many Mitchell and Ness jerseys do you have, Jerry?
15, 20?
Yeah, so I've maybe got 5 or 6 or something like that. And I was sort of looking through them like, oh, wow, I really like it. And as soon as I put it on tonight, I'm like, wow, you can feel the quality with these things. It's all sort of
awesome.
Stitched on. It's just a nice quality. The cat did jump off on it earlier and put a little scratch in the side of it, which I wasn't too pleased about. But anyway, I'll forgive it for that. Look, Andrew Gaze, what more can you say about him? He only played 7 games in this actual jersey, of course.
There is a story about that jersey, right? His name on the back getting grayed out on a card when he was getting dunked on, right?
Yes, Byron Houston, right? That was a good story. And for those that haven't seen it, search for our episode with Andrew Gaze. What was that? Was that like in our first 25 episodes?
5 years ago, nearly 4.5 years ago. Yeah,
one we still love there. But yeah, 7 games in that 93-94 season. But yeah, loving having this one. It's a random one, but yeah, one that probably we both approve. I'm sure you'd like this one.
Oh, love it, man. Right? Love it. Wear it out in public,
I'll have to actually. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Washington Bullets. There might be a few people like the Bullets. Yep, that's what they were called before the Wizards. Kind of like that old logo and everything they've got as well there. So, yeah, traditional sort of old school Washington Bullets jersey there.
Yeah, sick. Yeah.
Nice. Well, card of the week. I was going to show an NBL themed one, and I guess I still am in a way. But this is an actual NBA card of this certain guy, but with a big NBL connection. So it's a 2012-2013 Panini rookie card, signed rookie card of Indiana Pacers big man, Miles Plumlee.
Yeah, nice.
How random that one is there.
Nice.
So for those that don't know the connection there, he played briefly for the Perth Wildcats some time ago now. He sort of came on, it was about halfway through the season as an injury replacement, I think, from memory, and came on and was good. I think people liked him. He was very active on the defensive end. He was certainly a good rebounder there. Just reading the back of this there, it's saying he came off the bench for Duke at the time with Coach K coaching him there. Off the bench, he had 22 rebounds in a game, which broke the previous mark of 21 set by Breen. So, yeah, first round pick for Indiana. Didn't quite work out like it did with his brother, who we still see on the, he'll be playing in these NBA finals as part of the Spurs bench there. But yeah, Miles Plumlee, what were your thoughts on that guy?
I think he's still in Australia. By all reports, he met an influencer in the Gold Coast, married her, and he's never left. He's loved the country. I liked him at Phoenix, man. That Jeff Hornacek year, when he was really starting and being productive. I thought that would, I guess a guy with his kind of game, like the NBA kind of pass him by, can't really shoot, doesn't stretch the floor at all.
His brother
right?
sort of managed
yeah.
to,
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Different player, right? 'Cause he
Yeah.
can handle the ball and almost
Really good
facilitate
passer, very good passer, man. And he can, yeah.
Miles was more sort of rebounding and blocking shots, didn't have a lot of finesse on the offensive end.
Yeah.
But look, I think Wildcats fans will remember his time reasonably fondly there. As I said, it was sort of a blink and miss thing there, and I don't think it was a great team here. I think
He won the championship.
Was that the season he won?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Throw out what I said. I've had a
hell yeah. They won the
Well, I
championship.
definitely remember him fondly.
It was the COVID championship, the asterisk championship,
That's what
right? Yeah,
well,
yeah.
only Kings fans have put an asterisk in front of it. So yeah, what was that? 2021 was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So I think you're right as well. I think he has sort of stayed. I think he might have played a little bit of like state league or before it was NBL one at the time, and then or maybe NBL one. I'm not sure actually, but yeah, now he's just stayed here. I think he had some injuries as well. Maybe that's the reason why he wasn't continuing to play. Maybe you can fact check that while we're talking about it, Woods. But yeah, I thought this was a nice card anyway. It's got the nice sort of shine to it there. The Panini, Miles Plumlee, rookie.
It's 2020.
2020.
Yep.
Jesus, COVID that long ago.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, bit of a different theme there. So it's some Keanu, Pinder, some Andrew Gaze, and some Miles Plumlee.
Yeah, nice.
All right, well, appreciate that, Woods. Well, of course, we're going to start with NBA playoffs. And,
of course.
Yeah, as you mentioned at the start, we're, 3 more sleeps away from game one. Can't wait for it all to start. I guess before we get into the actual final series, we'll do a quick wrap-up of the previous series there, Woods. I know last week, I think the Knicks were up either 2 or 3.
3-0.
They were up 3-0 against the Cavs, and we wondered how short that series would end up being. Well, the answer was very short. So, New York with another 4-0 series win there, and it was another brutal game 4, wasn't it, for the opposition? So they really took care of business in that one, winning on Cleveland's home court there. So, look, there was 4-2 against Atlanta. They swept Philly, and then they swept Cleveland there. So I think we mentioned last week as well, maybe the Hawks did okay to get those 2 games there and be in it with a couple of games, even though the last game was an absolute stinker there. But look, we'll talk about the Knicks a little bit later, Woods, and look, super impressive that they've got this far there. They had a new coach come in this year that's settled the team well. It's pretty much the same personnel as last season, isn't it? They haven't really made a lot of changes to that team. But let's go to the Cavs, though. Funny old season for the Cavs. They sort of had a really good regular season last year, but then got bounced early in the playoffs. This year they weren't as good in the regular season, but they ended up getting to the conference finals with a couple of Game 7 victories there, Detroit and Toronto. But look, it was a pretty poor showing, wasn't it, against the Knicks there? What were your thoughts firstly on the Cavs and their season, and maybe what do you think they might need to improve that team next season?
Yeah, well, the 2 7-game series really took it out of them, right? That first game meltdown, against the New York Knicks was really difficult to come back from. They never really came back from that. We discussed that last week. But when you talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, they got 3 really important decisions to make in the offseason. So I'll just go through them with you, all right?
Does one of them have a beard?
Yes, the first is Harden, right? He has a $42.3 million play option for next season, right? What I'm hearing, he's going to decline that and he's going to re-sign with the Cavs on a multi-year deal. So I'll come back to that in a second. I want to get your thoughts on that. They also need to decide when they want to offer Donovan Mitchell an extension, right? And if Evan Mobley is someone they really want to, invest in going forward, right? So let's start with Mitchell. Mitchell has 2 seasons remaining on his contract. The Cavs can offer him a 4-year, $272 million extension beginning on July 7th, Robbie, or Mitchell could wait until next year where he would be eligible for the 5-year Supermax contract worth 350 million, right? And finally, Mobley, look, that really depends on what if the Cavaliers want to go all in on Giannis. There's some word around the blocks that, Cleveland could be a landing spot for Giannis and Mobley could be part of that trade, right? So
Interesting.
let me get your thoughts on those three things, right?
All right, so maybe let's start off with Harden first. Interesting if he does opt out and re-sign there. Look, he didn't have a great playoffs again. I think it goes without saying there, Woods, but I do feel like he's maybe taken a little bit too much of the blame. There's been a lot of memes. We'll talk about another guy that's in a lot of memes from OKC soon. But look, he came into the team, it's more than halfway through the season, isn't it, the trade deadline there? I thought he fit in pretty well. The team seemed to lift when he was there. I think he worked okay with Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, look, it wasn't a great final series. His 3-point shooting and just his percentages in general were really bad. But yeah, I think they'd probably be pretty happy to have him come back. I don't think Cleveland's a popular free agent destination. You're not going to suddenly sign these guys that want to play in Texas or Florida sort of teams and things like that. So yeah, bring him back, give him a full season and see how he goes. The Donovan Mitchell one, look, you mentioned 2 years left on the contract. Why do they have to look at re-signing him now? I know you mentioned he could be eligible for a Supermax next year, but let's just see how it goes, right?
Yep.
Say they get bounced in the first round next year, or they really sort of, have an ordinary regular season. Maybe you don't want to throw all that money and you can spend that money, better than, a 6'3" guy that's, pretty much this is the furthest he's ever led a team, right, this season for Cleveland. And yeah, I guess finishing with Mobley, that's the big one, isn't it? I've heard, Cleveland internally, sort of be quite vocal. They love this guy, right? So it would have to be a pretty juicy player to be for a trade there. And maybe that's something that Giannis is, right? You can't get these, franchise altering players. Like, Giannis is still a top 5 player. Do we agree there? Or
Yeah, you put Giannis alongside Allen, Mobley, Harden, and someone else, right? That is automatically elevates that team, right?
Yes, and you've got to give up something good to get something great, right?
And
So
Milwaukee aren't losing getting Mobley, a young player, defensive player of the year who's got a future ahead of him. It just makes logical sense, that trade there,
they'd
right?
have to chuck in some more stuff.
Yeah, of course.
They? Maybe our boy Tyrese Proctor gets involved. Maybe there'd have to be some pick swaps or a first rounder or two or something just to get that.
Yep.
That contract there. But look, I think Giannis is a name we're going to be hearing a lot before this trade deadline.
Sure thing.
The draft deadline this year.
I hear that.
This month, isn't it? It's like the end of June. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get moved there. And we'll talk about another team that could be a popular destination. But yeah, that's probably my thoughts on that one.
The Knicks.
Any differences for you? Like, were you happy bringing Harden back? Or?
Oh yeah, no, I'm happy bringing him back. Right, as you said, that comment you made around it's not a popular destination. Yes, if you give him, you save a little bit of money, but give him it gives him salary cap flexibility for him to opt out and for them to give him 3 years or something like that. 2, I would probably give 2 or 3, maybe with a mutual option on the third or something like that. He did take them to 2 Game 7 victories. Let's not forget that, right? Even though he was terrible in the playoffs, he had his moments where he did step up, right? So having that experience, I don't mind that. Give him a full season. I'm with you. Yeah.
Hey, how about some of those Knicks fans, by the way? I read about this one guy that he wanted to get 1 seat, right, to go to Madison Square Garden to see a game in that series against the Cavs. He got the price for that, right? And then he looked into what it would cost for him to go to Cleveland. I think it was game 3 for a Knicks fan, right? So for cheaper money, he flew his wife and his son. 3 of them went to Cleveland. They say it stayed in a 5-star hotel and had really good seats, and had a couple of nights away as a little bit mini break. Then what would have cost for 1 seat in the bleachers just for him to go in New York? So isn't that crazy, right? No wonder all those fans are traveling there because they could actually save a few dollars there. So fun but crazy fact there. Well, let's wrap up that other conference finals there. And look, thankfully we got a much better series in this one, didn't we? I know we both enjoyed this series here. I was commentating when Game 7 was on. I know you were watching it with a couple of mates of ours, and you enjoyed it. I have sort of since watched that there, but it was a funny one, right? So Spurs eventually getting the upset and knocking out the last year's champs on the road there. Albeit a great series, when you sort of look at the scores, there wasn't a lot of close games, was there? So Game 1, Spurs won by 7. Game 2, OKC by 9. Game 3, OKC by 15. Game 4, Spurs by 21. Game 5, OKC by 11. Game 6, Spurs by 27. And then 8 points in Game 7. So it's funny, isn't it? For what will be remembered as a good series, we didn't really get any super close games, did we?
No, we didn't. And Spurs couldn't actually win 2 games in a row. OKC did win game 2 and 3, I think, from memory, right? Yeah, they won game 2 and 3, and the Spurs just couldn't win 2 games in a row till they had to, which is the last two of the series.
And
So
you'll be pleased with yourself. You picked Spurs to win this series,
in
didn't you? You
seven
would
as
have.
well,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
seven as
So
well, right?
that was definitely a good pick there. Well, yeah, as I mentioned, we both enjoyed the series there. Give me some quick thoughts on Spurs. I know we'll talk about them soon, but is this just a surprise that they've got to the finals this early in that journey with some of the young guys, or is this is going to be a team that we see this late in the season for a while?
Definitely. I mean, it is a bit of a surprise because they're way ahead of schedule, right? Wemby's development is way ahead of schedule. This team's development is way ahead of schedule, right? Uh, and Wemby's emotions are what it's all about. You saw him, crying and embracing his teammates. This is what a competitive sport at the highest level is about, right?
Yeah.
And when you got a guy like that, a talisman, so mature for his age, yeah, really, really happy for them. But
I
yeah,
think they've constructed the team so well as well, Wood. So and even just a few little recent moves, like taking Harrison Barnes out of the starting lineup and putting Champagny in there, who was really good,
he was
right?
awesome.
Getting the trade for De'Aaron Fox, free agent signings like Luke Cornett, who had a crucial block in that game
Yeah,
7 there. And,
big block.
they've got a lot of veterans on the bench, although they're not that important. But guys like Bismack Biombo and Mason
Harrison
Plumlee
Barnes.
yeah, and Harrison
Yeah,
Barnes obviously
yeah.
that's been there and done that. They're going to be really good for some of these young guys' development and showing them what it's like to be a true pro. So I think firstly they've built that team really well. Let's go to OKC though. It's a strange one, isn't it? I think people thought this was going to be the next dynasty, a team that might win, not two, not three, not four, or whatever Miami said all those years ago. And instead, they're bounced here. They're not going to get a chance to defend their title there. I think this has probably opened up a lot of questions, hasn't it? I think there was a lot of guys that didn't perform for them this series, right? SGA, got pretty good numbers in that game 7. His numbers, he worked harder than he's ever worked, and I think I heard that of the 8 lowest scoring games in the whole season, including playoffs for OKC, 5 of those 8 were against the Spurs. So this is a team that seems to have OKC figured out. We'll talk a little bit about maybe what went wrong for OKC, and at the end of the day, they were one win or even one quarter away from making the finals. Can we start with Chet Holmgren though, Woods? He was just brutal the whole series. I talked about someone being the focus of memes. My goodness. I don't know if you saw some of the ones I've been sending that people have been sending on, like the one with him and Ben Simmons and then Anthony Bennett walks in. That was pretty funny, that one. But what happened with Chet in that series? And why is he taking 2 shots in a closeout game?
Yeah, look, I mean, some of that's on the coaching stuff, as I said, right? It's the same thing with Cleveland and Mobley not getting any looks, right? You got to get him involved, get him interested in the game, right? Obviously, going up against the man mountain is not easy, right? But
Yeah,
he's been here before. He's a championship winner, right?
yeah,
He's seen the bright lights. I just think he got outplayed. And look, on a whole, OKC were right there. AJ Mitchell being out and
yeah.
J Dub being out. That you
What's
probably.
that? Their second and their 5th best players out, including their second All Star.
But then you think about De'Aaron Fox being banged up throughout the series. You think
Yeah.
about Harper, D Harper, also not playing on full health. So injuries happen in the game. But as you said, SJ had 35 points, shooting 57% in that game 7, right?
He did all right. Yeah.
But that Spurs win ended that hopes of that Thunder to become the first repeat champions, I think, since the Warriors in 2017-18 it would have been, right? And look, the series began with SGA winning his MVP trophy, and the series ended with Victor Wembanyama winning the Irvin Magic Johnson Trophy as Western Conference Finals MVP. And SGA in his press conference was so full of praise of that Spurs team, right? And
Yeah.
he's like, it is so hard just to win one championship. It's really difficult to do it again. We were right there, but this team was better. I mean, this series going back and forth, but they were the better team in Game 7. I got to give them credit, but this window is still open for them, right? For a long time, right? Yeah.
I just want to go back quickly to the Chet thing as well. There, which
Yep.
like you and I have never coached NBA basketball, right? Okay, so he's got a pretty good coach in Mark Dagnall. He might be related to John Stockton. I'm not sure with the way he looks there. I would have thought the game plan with someone like Chet against someone like Wemby would be to get him out on the 3-point line, get him shooting, try and bring Wemby out of the paint. Kenrich Williams had more 3-point attempts in that series than Chet did. So that was the part that I thought was a bit of a failure on the OKC coaching staff. You needed the big guys to
Yep.
fire and make shots and keep someone like Wemby out of the key to make it easy for guys like SGA and these sort of guys to get to the hoop and get to the foul line, which is something they weren't able to do much in the series there. And yeah, obviously a huge deal not having J-Dub there. That was pretty disappointing, wasn't it? Just as neutral fans like us not to
Yep.
see him out there. And look, AJ Mitchell, clearly a huge loss as well. Look, Caruso had a really good series. He did have a donut game, I will that as well, but he was really good. McCain was pretty good. I thought Hartenstein was pretty solid as well throughout, but none of those role guys that we've seen step up in the previous finals campaigns. Guys like Wiggins and Joe and these sort of guys, they were pretty much a non-factor in this series. So where do you think they need to go there? We mentioned possible Giannis destinations before. I've already heard OKC fans and people online saying they should trade Chet now, right? Look, Chet's an all-star this year. He's an all-defensive, second in all-defensive votes and a third-team All-NBA player. So, look, I don't know whether they would trade him for Giannis, but even now, though, his stock's dropped a little bit after that finals, but it's still not going to work. You still have to do Chet and stuff to get Giannis. Would you consider a trade like that?
No, absolutely not, man. He's a fantastic player. He's young. He had a bad series, and in the locker room, he was interviewed after that Game 7. He's just like, I don't think you realize how hard it is to go up against Wemby, right? I struggled. I need to figure it out, and that OKC team, it's not new to them. They struggled against that Spurs team throughout the regular season. Even last year, at times, they struggled against that team. So they got to figure out a way to get around this, and I think I wouldn't be too concerned. They were, one game away from going back to the NBA Finals. So I think I would just chill.
I think they need to make some subtle moves. So Lou Dort's an interesting one for me.
Yeah.
Him and SGA are the longest serving Thunder players. They're really close. They're Team Canada. They're like brothers apparently. I don't know whether I'll be looking to bring him back. And I don't know why they kept starting him throughout that series. He could not throw, as you like to say. He was missing.
He was 4 from 26 from 3 on the series or something like that.
His defense was amazing. I don't think he locked down one of those, Spurs sort of young guards there. So I think that's someone that you maybe need to move on from there.
He was banged up this year as well. Didn't even qualify for all defensive and stuff. So I mean, there wasn't rhythm. If anything, you would say they've got so much depth. They've got guys that like Aaron Wiggins, Kenrich Williams, who barely played. Move him on.
Hartenstein's going to be a free agent, so who knows what will happen with him. But they might need to make some subtle changes. I agree. I think it's probably a bit of a panic thing to get rid of Chet now.
No. That's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know what the likely destination for Giannis is. We could probably talk about that in the coming weeks. So I'd be pretty surprised if it was OKC. I think SGA probably has a chance in that team too. He's pretty close with Chet. So, I mean, maybe that's a good one for internet headlines, right? But not something that's going to happen there. But any other final thoughts on OKC there? Look, still a pretty good season, as you said there, but ultimately that has come up against a young, hungry team.
Yeah, I mean, nothing much on OKC, but that Game 7, I'll just touch on that really quickly, right? You talked about the contributions. Julian Champagny, 22 points, right? Yeah. Made 6 3-pointers. Devin Vassell, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Stephon Castle, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Dylan Harbour, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. You go down the line. Keldon Johnson, 11 points. De'Aaron Fox, 15 points, right? They had contributions all the way down the board in that game. Sure. Everyone stepped up. And that's the kind of unified effort they're going to need against New York as well, right? So
such a deep team, isn't it? Yeah. Well, let's get on to that final series, Wood. So I know we're both super excited for this, right? Look, New York's a team that I've got I'm very fond of, given that they've got 2 of my favourite players in Cat and Josh Hart there. You've been all over the Spurs during this run there, Castle, Wemby, these sort of guys, Harper that you like and that. And isn't it pretty funny? This is a rematch as such from the 1999 NBA Finals. So I thought I'd maybe just read a little bit about that, Wood. So for those that don't remember, the 1999 NBA Finals, it was the shortened lockout 98-99 season there. So it was the Western Conference champion Spurs took on the 8th seed, New York Knicks, to go to that final series there. Patrick Ewing didn't play. I remember that was a huge thing at the time. He was injured for those finals there. And look, it wasn't the best of series there. The Spurs defeated the Knicks in 5 games. I remember watching these. They had the games on the same day, but at night time on Channel 10. So I remember catching up with my boy Streety, and we were watching some of these games there. So this was the only NBA Finals to feature an 8-seeded team, and the first time an 8-seeded team won an NBA Finals game, which was pretty huge there. So that's going back to 99. What do you remember about that?
What I remember is, ironically, that man whose jersey you're wearing right now was taking part in that series.
Yeah.
On the San Antonio Spurs.
Pop had just taken over the Spurs, right?
Yeah.
Hill might have got his marching orders that year, and so it was, Pop's first campaign there, which was pretty remarkable. And it was the Spurs' first championship. It seems like they've won so many, and they have, but that was actually their first there. But look, let's go back to this final series. So let's start with New York, Woods. I mean, this is massive for that city, right? It's their first NBA final since '99. The only time, well, the last time they won a title was in 1973. And Woods, as you know, I got a little bit older last week, but that's still even older than I am. So 1973 is pretty crazy.
Phil Jackson was on that team as a player.
He was, yeah. He had a pretty good haircut then as well. Look, what do you like about this player front that they've had? And do you think they are a legit chance to go all the way?
Absolutely. I'm going to give you my predictions at the end of this conversation. So we'll save that for then. But listen, man, you can't pick on these guys anymore, right? Cat, Jalen Brunson, notoriously not good defenders, right? And you could put them in situations where you could take advantage of them. Well, that's not happening anymore. A big part of this run that they've had, right, is those two. And they've stepped up on defense. You see Cat all the time rotating, being vocal and communicating with others. I like to watch defense when I'm watching the game as opposed to offense. I pay close attention to that. Even Jalen Brunson, right? He's statistically been in the worst defenders in the league over the years. Yeah, and he has really changed things up. So I think a big reason you put a Bridges, a Josh Hart, an OG Anunoby, and then you put them around these two guys who are really invested on that end of the floor. You get a team. This is the greatest point differential ever by a team in NBA playoff history ever. Yeah. Ever leading up to the finals, right?
It's a couple of some pretty good teams there, right? With some some Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame players on those teams, and they just destroyed it, didn't they?
Well, I want to put something to you, right? Okay. Now Becky Hammon, I know she's come out she said it a few years ago. You know what I'm going to talk about here, right? So let me read it to you. Las Vegas Aces coach Becky Hammon. She didn't back down from her assertion that a small player can't lead a team to an NBA championship now that Jalen Brunson has taken the New York Knicks to the NBA Finals. Hammond made her initial comments back in 2023 saying the Knicks couldn't win the championship if the 6'2" Brunson was their best player. And she said, I speak from experience. Hammond said, Allen Iverson got MVP and he lost in the finals. I think the two best teams are probably in the West, but I'm up for being proven wrong. That's the other thing. I think Jalen Brunson is a hell of a player. I'm speaking historically on the NBA with what I said. I don't know why everybody's so stuck on that. I said it 2 years ago. I said what I said. If he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. Well, now you've got a little guard who's the one guy going up against a man mountain, right? So if ever there's an opportunity for him to prove her wrong, this is it, right? So
do you think she's ever watched NBL, Becky Hammon, as well? So a little guy leading a team to a championship. I can seem to remember one that's went pretty well in Perth doing that. But yeah, it's interesting. She may end up, wishing she didn't say those sort of things. But yeah, I like the examples you mentioned there, Woods. I think, look, the starting five is just clicking at the moment. Bridges had a really good
Hell yeah.
So he was a little bit down against the Hawks, but the last 2 rounds he's been great.
He's been awesome.
Cat's been terrific. Brunson, he's such a big game player.
Have you noticed that with Cat on defense, though?
The thing in Cat, I've never thought he was, maybe I'm a bit of a homer there, I've never thought he was that bad a defender. He was kind of in that little bit of a lazy defender category that we see with guys. And incidentally, another one of my favourites in Zach LaVine. These are guys that are pretty athletic players and that, but it's just about effort. And I think that effort becomes contagious when you see guys like Josh Hart, playing the defense he does. Mitchell Robinson comes on, Grand Theft Alvarado, these sort of guys. Like, you don't want to be the one that's out there that's letting guys blow past you. OG's another one that's going to be really important.
Yeah.
To do, but yeah.
I think that it was more he wouldn't concentrate. He'd get put in a ball screen. And then he'd the switch would happen and they would take advantage of him, right? So it's not that he's not capable. It was more you got to be attentive on that end of the floor, and I really see that, right? And
how many threes is Cat putting up this series? You mentioned we want to, for the Knicks, they want to stretch the floor and get Wemby, out of the paint. I think you could see Cat taking record-breaking numbers. But let's go into a couple of the matchups. I was looking at some of the season stats there. So we saw a lot of Josh Hart on Steph Castle. So that's probably going to be a predominant matchup. I really like that matchup there. Two guys with a bit of fire there. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of push and shoves. Castle was a bit nasty and fiery at times in that last series, but I think you might also see a little bit of OG Anunoby on Wemby as well. He's a big, strong guy there, and Wemby's going to have to sort of deal with that extra strength he's got there. I was trying to think about the Jalen Brunson matchup there. So who guards Brunson and who does Brunson guard? Any thoughts on that?
I think you put Fox, man. Fox there, and then you might bring a Bridges onto Fox and put Brunson onto Castle, who's less of a threat on the offensive end, right? I would probably do that, Yeah.
And what about the man with the world's mysterious pinky injury? It's not my pinky finger injury, but did you see that Mitchell Robinson injury? So they came out and they said, it didn't happen in a game and it didn't happen in practice, but we're not talking about it anymore. So I thought that was really weird. First thought, was that a bar fight? I don't know. When I heard that, I thought that's really weird that they went out and sort of said that. But apparently he's had surgery. He's not going to be someone that's out there, taking a lot of shots. But if you want to ever see a massive unit, he's probably is up there with Wemby, isn't he? He's a huge human being, so he could be pretty important in this.
Might see Ariel Hukporti for a bit.
Yeah, maybe. Apparently, he did play a little bit in regular season. There was a few blowout games when they've played each other recently as well. But you might see a bit of Hukporti right there. What do you think of the advantages with those matchups? I mentioned who's got the better bench as well. Do you think?
I mean the Knicks. I mean the Spurs are only going to use 3 guys, right? Mainly maybe 4, right? I think the Knicks, you've got so many options. You saw Landry Shamet come.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned those guys. You got Jordan Clarkson is there. You know, you even got Jeremy Sohan on the end of the bench, man.
He's not coming on.
Yeah, of course.
He's getting a championship ring, but he's not coming on.
He's not coming on. But what I'm saying is you can really look down the end of the bench and there's guys with experience that have been there before that you can call on, right? You mentioned Grand Theft Alvarado. He doesn't even play a lot of minutes every game. Sometimes they want a different look. They go the Clarkson route, right? So,
they've got different guys that can throw at some of those guards. So I could see Grand Theft Alvarado being put on and just trying to hound De'Aaron Fox. Woody, I briefly mentioned it before. Why is Jeremy Sohan getting a ring? Explain to the people what that's all about.
It's a silly rule, man, because he got traded at the trade deadline, right? He's qualified. Is that still a rule?
It's still a rule. So whoever wins is getting a championship ring.
Yeah, okay. I guess it's fair enough because you were part of that locker room for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
Because you got traded.
He's not going to get on. So he's not going to get on, and no matter which team wins, he's winning a championship. I mean, talk about a can't lose situation there. I thought that was a pretty crazy fact there. But coaching, how do you see the coaches? Like a relatively new coach for the Spurs against someone that's been there before for New York. Is there any coaching advantage? Or do you think that's pretty?
Yeah, experience, man. But Mitch Johnson has shown that experience doesn't really matter, man. He made some really great decisions. Got Wemby to bring the ball up the floor and change things around. And he's just really smart as a coach. But yeah, experience still counts for something, right? And New York in the coaching department had that advantage.
Does advantage count for something which the Spurs have?
It does. I mean, that's a tough arena to play in, man. Tough arena to play in.
Sort of stuff. Yeah, I like that. All right, well, let's get on to some predictions, right?
Okay.
I know you sort of gave some in one of our group chats today, but why don't you tell us who's going to win in how many games and why they're going to win?
Okay, I'm going to go the Knicks in 7 games, bro.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, the Knicks in 7 games, just because they've got versatile. They're so versatile defensively, right? They can throw many different matchups onto the various different wing players that the Spurs have. They have more depth, slightly more depth, a lot more experience if you talk about games played across the board, right? But then again, when you've got the alien on the team, bro, when you got Wemby there, yeah, man,
Give me a game one thought there. I love to mention Rest versus Russ. This is going to be quite a long break for the Knicks. How do you think that will come out in game one? Do you think they'll be okay there, or the Spurs might get a good first up win there?
I think might just take game one, right? Madison Square Garden, it's going to be also, you talk about a tough environment playing in San Antonio. What about coming to MSG for some of these guys for the game one of an NBA Finals? These young kids, Steph Castle and, even Wemby, man, he hasn't been in that situation before, right? So, yeah.
There's going to be more celebrities than ever. Apparently some of those seats are costing am I reading right, $500,000 for a seat?
Are you kidding me?
It's insane. No, it's literally
$500,000? So how much is Spike Lee paying for his seats?
I'm not sure. It's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, these guys are rich, but that adds up when you're spending that much on some sponsors. You probably wouldn't want it to go the distance. You might want to see a sweep there.
Yeah.
But, look, I've been thinking about it a little bit today as well. And look, my heart's probably saying New York for Hart and for Cat. I'd love to see them win and those guys get a title. And wouldn't it be a great story for the Villanova guys to win on the college stage and then be together and win in the NBA Finals? But I just think Spurs. It just feels like it is going to be their year for me.
Can I just also say before you answer this question, this is New York's last chance. After this, the window's closed, man. I think because
I disagree.
The Spurs, OKC are coming. This is their best chance ever.
East, though, right? I don't think the door's shutting in the East for them. I mean, all these guys are. It's not like anyone's about to retire or anyone's
fair enough.
Out of contract. But I think you're right. OKC and Spurs are those teams that are always going to be there. But someone has to come out of the East every year. If they can get, maybe next year, get a few more regular season wins under their belt, they get that finals, 4 games at home. But look, I'm going to say Spurs in 7. That feels like an easy one for me to say. I was thinking about Spurs in 6, but
what?
I just think New York's got enough there. And Yeah, let's see how Wemby handles this. He's got all the world watching him now. He's that sort of player that everyone loves at the moment, but we know the whole tall poppy thing and tall in inverted commas with him. People might start to get a bit sick of him soon. He was a little bit, I'm not going to say dirty, but there's a few interesting sort of things he did in that Western Conference Finals. People may start to not like him eventually, but I think we love him for now. We love what he's doing for the game there. And yeah, I'm going to say Spurs in a really good series in 7.
Okay.
Either way, can't wait. So I think game 1's Thursday. We get a weekend game, which is really good. So Saturday's game 2, and then unfortunately we've got a public holiday here in New South Wales. No game 3.
I don't think people are going to start disliking Wemby. He's too nice, right? He's too much of a good guy.
What about SJ? Would you have said that a few years ago? SJ seems to get hated on more than anyone I've seen.
I don't know why.
Interesting. We didn't get that flop off as well between SGA and Brunson. But people were wondering how that was.
He's a good guy, SGA, though. He speaks well, right?
No, I agree. Well, he's Canadian. They're all nice.
Yeah.
All right. So you're saying Knicks in 7. I'm saying Spurs in 7. One of us is going to be right with the prediction anyway. But yeah, can't wait to come back next week. By the time we come on next week, there would have been a couple of the games played, so we can get into that. But let's just hope for a really good series, right? Let's hope it goes a distance. Then it goes pretty much through to the draft, and then we get that little bit of a break from NBA. And I should say as well, in terms of scheduling, Woods, we'll probably maybe go fortnightly just for a couple of, maybe a month or so before the NBL preseason kicks in and stuff. But still a lot to happen around that draft and this sort of stuff. But no, bring on the NBA finals. I can't wait there. So, all right, we'll go to some quick hits now, Woods. I know you prepared a lovely slide earlier. So I wanted to start with the Boomers, right? So they've announced a really strong squad for the Asia Cup qualifiers. I was pretty surprised actually when I saw this team list come out. As a current NBA player, a current guy that's doing well in college, that it's a big guy there. So why don't you read out who we've got on that team? We'll give some quick thoughts.
Yeah, so Taron Armstrong, Josh Bannon, Bryce Cotton, Alex Condon, Mitch Creek, Angus Glover, Ben Henschel, Jack McVeigh, Elijah Pepper, the man whose jersey I'm wearing right now, Keanu Pinder, Tyrese Proctor, and Wani Swakala Bullock.
That is a good team, right?
Yep.
Looking at that there, you've got some good defenders, right? You've got guys like Pinder and Wani, Mitch Creek can sort of play some good D, but you've got some guys that can really handle the ball, right? And that, are going to be exciting to watch. Guys like Taron Armstrong, of course, Bryce Cotton making his debut there. Tyrese Proctor, how will he go after, just getting through to the Eastern Conference Finals, not playing much for the Cavs, but he's going to be looking pretty good there. So, and Alex Condon, what were your thoughts on him making it?
Really happy for him to be making it, right? And no one's happier than our brother, the Sydney Seeking, right, on this.
Well, he can play a pretty big role. So who are the big guys, basically? You've got Josh Bannon, you've got Condon, and you've got Pinder. So they're really the only 3, 4, or 5s on that.
Condon might even start at the 5, right? It's a possibility, right? I think Taron Armstrong, this is really good to get him involved, in the group. And Mitch Creek as well. I really liked him, being part of that qualifiers last time as well. So
let's not forget about Mitch Creek. He can still play the game. All right, put your coaching hat on, Woods. If you're in charge of this team and you had to put out a starting 5, give me your starting 5.
All right, my starting 5 would be Bryce Cotton, Mitch Creek, Jack McVeigh, Keanu Pinder, and Alex Condon.
Yeah, not bad. I was thinking maybe Bryce and Taron Armstrong in the backcourt, but yeah, I can see what you did there as well. So yeah, I like it. I think that's a strong team. And you've got some instant offense guys like Glover and Ben Pepper to come on and just shoot from the outside and do what they do there. So yeah, I think it's a pretty strong squad, and looking forward to see how that team goes about it. So
yeah, you could probably start Taron Armstrong at the 1 and Bryce Cotton at the 2, Mitch Creek at the 3, McVeigh at the 4, Pinder at the 5, and Condon coming off the bench. That would also be good, right?
I like that. You're not playing against any massive teams like 7-2 centers. So yeah, maybe that's the 5 they go with. So I appreciate that one, Woods. Well, just a couple of other quick hits. You're wearing that Cairns jersey. You kind of teased it at the start, but Cairns announced this week they've re-signed Adam Forde to a 2-year contract. I know you were thinking of me when this announcement came. I'll start with your thoughts first. What were your thoughts?
Fan of the show, Jono Barber, sent me a text. I'll just read it to you. Jono
sent. Not in my head to what he said.
He sent to me, Cairns needed to take a different direction here after the signing came out. And he said, why re-sign him? And I go, I know Robbie's not going to like this one. So, yeah.
Shout out to you, Jono. Well, maybe I'll start then. I agree, Woods. Look, 2 years for a team that's finished in the bottom 2 of the last 2 seasons. I thought they needed to move on from him before last year, and it looked like they were going to, and then they brought him back. Look, people talk about budgets and other things like that. We know in the past they've put together some good imports. I feel like that's dropped off a little bit the last couple of seasons with what they've managed to put out on the court. Yes, they did have some injuries last year. I'll give them that. But yeah, I just felt like this team maybe needed a new voice there. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
sort of
look,
been there a while. He's had his time. What were your thoughts?
he's become a pretty polarizing figure. A lot of people go one way, a lot of people go the other. I mean, someone's got to take the blame for the recruitment last year. Admiral Schofield, all these guys, like
He's still sitting
Marcus
on a
Lee
bench
and
somewhere,
the,
isn't he?
huh?
Schofield's still sitting on a bench somewhere, isn't he? He hasn't been able to get off it.
Yeah, I mean, he's in Puerto Rico or something. I don't know
On
where
the
he's
bench.
playing, right? Yeah. Anyway, either way, I think Keanu Pinder, I think Jack McVeigh as well played a big role in that. Like him re-signing there, I think that would have played some sort of part, right?
And
So
look, Wardenberg was a big loss there. And if they can nail the imports, which they didn't do last year, that could go pretty decent if you've got guys like Pinder and McVeigh. But yeah, I just don't see it. I think it was a bit of a mistake, and we'll see how that goes this year. One last quick one in the quick hits, Woods.
Yep.
Some sad news coming out of the NBA coaching world today. So Rick Adelman passed away yesterday at age 79. So someone that we really grew up, seeing on the sidelines, right? Of course, we see David Adelman, coaching in the league now. But for those that don't know about Rick Adelman, he was a head coach for 23 seasons. He was recognised for his iconic Princeton-style offense. So, look, he led the Portland Trailblazers to 2 finals appearances in 1990 and 1992. They came up against a pretty good team. I forget who that was, Woods, but a team that beat them both times. He coached Golden State for a couple of years. He was with Sacramento for those really good teams there, and maybe they could have got a better run with the whistle there. So he was with there about 7 years. He then went to Houston, multiple playoff bursts with that team. Also had that memorable 22-game win streak in 2008 that I'm sure you remember well.
yeah,
And then, basically concluded his coaching career managing a young Minnesota Timberwolves team for 3 years from 2012 to 2014. So he was also a pretty handy player by all accounts there.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, 7 seasons in the NBA. He was drafted out of Loyola Marymount College there. Drafted by the then San Diego Rockets in 1968 and played for the Rockets, Trailblazers, Bulls, Jazz and Kings. So just quickly, 1,042 regular season coaching wins. He was the head coach of the All-Star Game 3 times. Also received the Chuck Daly Lifetime Achievement Award in 2023. So what will your memories be of Rick Adelman there, Woods?
I think the Sacramento years really stand out for me. I think that's one of the most iconic teams in NBA history, right?
Yeah.
And those years were brilliant. And as you said, something that gets slept on is his play. I think I checked today, he played over 450 NBA games, right? Had a great college career. He's also the 3-time. Did you mention his All-Star head coaching? He was 3 times, right? From memory, yeah. So brilliant, man. That just shows, he's taken his teams to the promised land, right? To be selected as that All-Star head coach, right? So
I did read that the cause of death hasn't been sort of put out there, sort of thing. But just a big rest in peace. Someone that we both enjoyed the way he coached,
absolutely,
and what a great resume he had. So absolutely rest in peace. So all right, well let's get out of here with some true falsehood. So prepared a few little things for us here. So. The headline of this first one is Bang, Woods, and that's hearing Mike Breen commentate the Knicks in the NBA Finals is a great thing.
Yeah, I was going to say Bang as my answer, but you took that, right?
That is your answer.
Yeah, of course, man. Just an iconic New York. He's from Yonkers from memory, right? He's part of the furniture there, right? So
Do you remember
awesome.
how he got his actual start there? Woods?
I think Marv Albert got fired or something because of his
Albert was doing some weird things
some sexual stuff
involving women's clothing and other things like that. Yeah, they got Mike Breen off the radio commentary there. He came on and he's a guy that I've heard him interviewed quite a few times. He seems like a really good guy there. And look, I haven't stolen it off him, but I do pull out a bit of a bang from time to time when someone hits a big 3. It does sound good. He's had those iconic ones, the Jeremy Lin and the double bang and all those sort of ones there. But I'm really pleased. He's someone that I enjoy his commentary. I think he's going to do a really good job there. So I think that's a big true for both of us, right?
Yep.
All right.
Big
we
true.
haven't talked any Hawks, Wood, so I've got to get a Hawks question in here. So the Atlanta Hawks should look to make a move to get either Walker Kessler or Isaiah Hartenstein to give them a true big man.
I love Walker Kessler, man. I think even in the draft, you could look for someone right there.
I think they want someone now there, don't they?
Yeah.
It's got to be a true.
It's a true for a big man. What that looks like, I don't know if it's those guys, but yes, definitely, yeah.
I mean, look, the thing with both those guys is they're not players that are going to stretch the floor, but we love Onyeka Okongwu. We've been pretty vocal about that over the years. The guy is 6'8", I reckon. I think he's probably closer to 6'8" than what they list him at there. he's going to struggle against some of the big centres in the league. We've seen him struggle against New York and their big guys there. So I'd like to see a move there. Give up a little bit to get a guy like that. Walker Kessler's quite a bit younger than the
You love Walker
there,
Kessler.
So he'd be good, wouldn't he? So yeah, all right. So we're a big true on that. Another one of my favourites in this question, Woods. Someone that I used to say maybe it was my player comp. A poor man's version of. But Kevin Love will be in the Hall of Fame when he hangs up his boots. True or false?
Of course, 5-time All-Star, man. NBA champion. I think, what is he? Most improved player, rebounds leader, 2-time second team All-NBA? Yeah?
Yep.
Dude, hell yeah. We do the Mitch Richmond test. Come on, man. He passes it.
The Mitch Richmond test, I think he smashes it, doesn't he?
He smashes it, bro.
The 5-time All-Stars, the championship, those all-NBA teams, even though it's the second team, that's always a big one that I look at there. Even a few other little things, like he's led the league in rebounds, like you said, the MIP award there. So, yeah, it's funny when these guys get towards the end of their career because they become less relevant. I mean, how many people would even know that he's on Utah's roster now? You'd have to be a pretty sicko fan to even know that.
What was he, 2007 or 8 draft? Something like that.
Yeah, that's got his rookie card somewhere. But you know what I mean, right? If you ask the average fan, who does Kevin Love play for now? They'd be like, well, it's Miami, right? It's like, no, not anymore. He got sent to Utah. So, yeah, someone I've got a lot of time for. Woods is a very interesting sort of guy as well. But, yeah, great.
I'm sure it's 2007 or 8. So it'd be 15, 16 seasons in the NBA.
Too,
yeah. Your best mates.
Yeah.
College.
Both out of UCLA. So, yeah, a big true. Look, we're agreeing on everything. Final one, I thought I'd throw you a bit of a Sydney Kings question here. So, Kendrick Davis will not return to the Sydney Kings next season.
It's a tough one here because I hear that they actually gonna probably sign him at some point with some clauses in his contract and things like that. It really depends, man. I mean, they could wait for a while to see what happens, but I'm gonna say. What did you say? What was the question again?
He will not return.
False. I think they'll sign him, but he may or may not return. Does that make sense?
I know what you mean, yeah. And I got an answer from a good friend of ours, Matt McQuaid. So I asked him this same question, and he said true. He believes that they are going to bring him back. But like you said, potentially some NBA out clauses there. I think we're both a little bit on the fence with that. He seems to be to me, that category in the Bryce Cotton, in the Parker Jackson Cartwright. An amazing player, maybe a little bit undersized to go that next level in the NBA there. But
how coachable is he in the NBA to play a lesser role?
These guys that want to be the alpha dog and that, and you go in there, and he might have a game where he just literally doesn't get on. How would he go with that? He still hasn't quite proven his maturity to me over the years. But look, that wasn't the question. The question was, will he not return? I think we both agree that that's false. We think he will return, just not 100% sure if he'll play, if that makes sense. All right, nice Woods. Appreciate that. A bit of a mixed bag there. So, all right, we'll just head to a bit of an outro. So, as I mentioned at the start of the show, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow us on X at Throwback Hoops. I know Woods posted those pictures today. The Danny Avia jersey, and I forget what card it was. It was something pretty cool, wasn't it?
Thomas Abercrombie.
Nice, Thomas Abercrombie. And we'll get this cool Miles Plumlee. And it's funny, Woods, when I thought of my card of the week, I was going to pick like a superstar card. I thought, no, I like sort of telling, a card and telling you a bit of a story about this guy. And this is a guy that I'm sure big NBA fans that didn't really follow the NBL, they might not even remember he played here. And as you said, won an asterisk championship for Perth there. So that was pretty cool. As we mention every week, Patreon. If anyone wants to pledge a couple of dollars, we'd really appreciate that. We do leave that link at the bottom of the YouTube video and the audio now. So just click on that, give us 50 cents a month or whatever you can afford in this tough economic climate. That would really help us with all the production costs and everything like that. I'm going to throw it to you, my good man, for some final words or thoughts there. What are you feeling?
We've got a long weekend, and we got Stewie from the Sports Plugs joining us for the next episode next week to give us some insights on the NBA Finals. So really looking forward to having a third member on the panel next week, man. And really excited for these games to follow, right?
What will Stewie be like if I make any SGA flopping jokes or talk about chat and those sort of things? Do you think he'll be maybe the time's passed a little bit, he might be able to have a laugh about that, but I'll tread closely.
He might get a bit precious, right?
Yeah, he's a bit disappointed, but look, he's got a great team there. So, And we can't wait to kick it with him as we always do there. 3 more sleeps as we said, Woods. Thursday, game 1, San Antonio Spurs against the New York Knicks. We can't wait for this NBA final series. No commentary for me this weekend. The NBL 1 East is on a bye for this King's birthday this week, so I get to kick back and watch the other conferences and watch the NBA. But really enjoyed kicking it with you, Woods, and it's a big peace out.
Peace out.